I got a porno podcast with Mickey Bone.
Robert, he said to back it. Really?
No.
Robert, Shannon said to back out and then come back in.
All right, here I am.
There he is.
Yeah, listen.
You was hitting the bong, wasn't you?
No, I was listening to everything he had to say.
Hey, real quick, right before we get cranked up, I got to say this because I actually ordered some of that legal Delta 8 through the mail today, and I was extremely pleasantly surprised, paying way less than black market prices for what was essentially a comparable product. So yeah, I'm experimenting because I do the gummies. I've been doing Delta 8 gummies for about a year or so now, and I really like them.
Do me work a smacking off commercial into this?
If you can.
Cornbread Hemp, that's who you want.
Who?
That's the name of the brand. You should reach out to Cornbread Hemp and have them sponsor us, right? It'd be awesome.
I'm down with that.
Y'all hear that?
I wish I could use the gummies that I eat. I like those Death by gummies, which are now going to be outlawed because some kid died in Wisconsin.
Is that why they call them Death by gummies?
No, but that's kind of the whole ironic thing about it. You know, that was the finally the product living up to the name.
You have to watch out for that kind of shit. You remember what Dan Halen did on Squidbillies, the baby death trap? Remember?
Yes.
Oh man, it's been. I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, the baby death trap.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to name it the baby death trap and then have a baby die in it.
Who was a bigger asshole, Dan Halen or Master Shake?
Well,
that's a tough one right there. If you want to go for like who's a, go ahead.
Eddie Van Halen the asshole or fucking David Lee Roth the asshole?
No.
Dan Halen.
We're talking about Dan Halen on Squidbillies. He was the one that Earl kind of worked for every once in a while.
He was a little caveman looking fellow.
He was an entrepreneur.
Dan Halen sheetrock.
A local entrepreneur.
And by the way, the logo looked a lot like the Van Halen logo. It really did.
Can we Van Halen sheetrock to sponsor us now? You know, because Doyle Hargraves hasn't cut us a check in quite some time. I think he's dead.
He might be. I'll look into that.
You don't think Carl had something to do with it, do you?
I think I would if I was Carl.
Carl really liked that Wheatley boy, and we all know that. Well, shit. Let's just go ahead and call a spade a spade. We all know that he was not happy that boy wasn't his.
So we're mixing up characters. You met Carl from Sling Blade. I'd jump back to Aqua Teens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's probably, I don't know. Which one was a bigger asshole, Carl from Sling Blade or Carl from Aqua Teen Hunger Force?
Oh, Carl from Sling Blade was beyond fucking belief, man. I mean, I would have smacked the shit out of that motherfucker. When I seen him move that dude in that wheelchair around, I'd back smack that.
Oh no, that's Doyle.
Yeah, that was Doyle Hargraves. You're thinking of now. Carl, of course, was the character played by Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, Carl was
Doyle Hargraves was Dwight Yoakam's character.
Right, he's a local here, Dwight Yoakam. Right, I would have smacked the dog piss up. I probably wouldn't.
No, come on, man. He didn't even hurt the guy, man. He was just trying to shake him up a little bit.
Oh yeah,
right, Shannon.
I'll play cards with JD Shell Nuts. You kiss my ass.
All right, y'all keep talking. I'll be right back.
I actually watched Sling Blade a couple days ago, and the guy there's so many really cool, quiet moments in that movie, and probably more so than anything else was the very beginning. The very first character that I have any dialogue in the movie is I guess the serial killer / rapist woman abductor that he's in the mental institution with is just kind of spouting off these stories, about driving up to the chicken shack and trying to get a pro, and turns out the pro was actually a boy.
I didn't give him time to live, no time to live before Carl had his way with him too. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the thing is that, and that's where the movie ended, was pretty much Carl finally bowed up to him. Now, Carl had expressed his distaste in that very first exchange at the beginning of the movie before Carl was released. So when Carl gets back in that cell with him, and Carl's pretty much, you got to realize Carl probably at this point, really, that's how he kind of attained his manhood. If you think about it, by actually taking care of an evil, low-down motherfucker like Doyle Hargraves and protecting that family, protecting the Wheatley family. Because what he would have done to them.
That movie was pure art, man. You know,
I love that movie.
That was one of the last
But
great
that
movies.
really was. I hate to say it though, and everybody's got some pretty good opinions about Dwight Yoakam. A lot of them are based on his ex-wife Sharon Stone, basically just kind of admitting that hey, that character he played in Sling Blade, that's who he is in real life. But you know,
he did play the character pretty good.
Man, that is the mad. Why he didn't win an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor is beyond me, because he eats every fucking scene he's in that movie, and he devours
He's one of them people
it.
from the Appalachian Mountains that leave here and make something themselves, and if they come back, you don't know nothing about it, and they don't contribute a fucking thing. You know what I'm saying?
And Billy Bob Thornton is trying. He tries to paint a entire picture about an event that happens in Carl's life. But every single time Doyle comes into the scene, the whole shift of the movie goes to Doyle. Doyle is the central character, and he makes sure that he's the central character in every fucking room he's in, even if he's got to be a fucking dick about it and fucking shit the floor, and throw Vic Chestnut across the room. That is the most amazing part of that movie is that band that he had put together. Those are all seasoned. I mean, veterans of not only Nashville, but just, you know, the alt country scene and blues and stuff like that, man. There's just some amazing talent there playing some of the most god-awful surf rock. I don't know. What do you call that song they were playing?
It wasn't even good surf rock. I don't know what it was.
And Colonel Bruce Hampton, of all people. I'm a a massive Colonel Bruce Hampton fan. I absolutely love him to pieces. And got a chance to see him right before he passed.
He died on stage.
Now, I've lived that moment before, right? Or so there was this band in Nicholasville, and friends of mine were in it. Was like in the Leonard Skinner thing. They loved the Scorpions too, and they called themselves the Blackout Band, right? So I get there, and I don't know none of the songs that they're on, right? If y'all know any Black Sabbath, and it was this big field party. Committed, you know what I'm saying? I've got to sing, I've got to play. I said, well, let's do some Black Sabbath. I said, I know 3 or 4 songs off Paranoid. I said, y'all know any of them? So we sounded like Leonard Skinner doing Black Sabbath, right?
I'd pay money for that, actually.
Yeah, and all them dudes had PV this and that amps and shit, right?
Mississippi Marshall, that's what Daddy calls it.
Oh yeah, and they PV Red Stripes and Bandits and shit like that, and fucking big organ amp for a bass amp and shit like that, And I had a fucking my old Plexi, and I was just fucking crank. I said, "Fuck these guys! I'm cranking her to the moon. Fuck them, right?" And that was what happened.
Doug, I have a similar but probably slightly more disastrous story about the first show that you and I ever played together. Remember that one? You got hit by a tornado.
Oh my God!
Oh, you done it at Odie's?
Yeah, that was the first time that I ever played with y'all.
Oh wow!
Yep, it sure was. We had homemade pyrotechnics and almost caught my dress on fire. True story. True story. There is a video, a VHS video of that somewhere, and I remember. Oh man, that's been so long ago. We had actually there was a local music festival called City Stages that was playing that weekend. So what we did is we printed up flyers for this party that we were having at somebody's field.
We just called it the first annual party.
And it wasn't a very big field. It was kind of on like the weird dirt road out in the middle of, not far from, in Tuscaloosa County, not far from Tuscaloosa City. And we get down there and shortly, we had to actually build a stage for it and everything. It was a whole ordeal. And then we get everything set up, and then we come to find out there's like this massive tornado coming through that touched down just a few miles from where we were at. So it pretty much drenched everything. We were committed, so we went back out there, kind of dried up everything as best as we could, and went on with the show for the few people that were left. Before the bands actually went on, though, because we had advertised this at City Stages, we had too many people show up to this event, and there wound up being our own little private Altamont out there, and there was some shady stuff going on at the edge of the perimeter. Some girl got assaulted or something like that. I don't know. It was a pretty bad scene. We had to call friends in to help us out. Remember, Dusty showed up, both guns blazing, and directed half of them to go home.
We rented a PA. The guy brought it out, and then when he seen the
Rodney Hodgins backdoor music. Fuck that guy.
Never gave us a penny of our fucking money back. He wouldn't. He would not come. We told him come on because the storm was past by then. but he would not bring the shit. So, and he would not give us our money back.
We were able to put together a makeshift PA with all of the equipment that everybody had there. It was a very, we had a lot of people sharing, drums and bass amps and stuff like that, and had, tried to figure out some sort of vocal situation where you had to stand just right to hear the vocals with the band. Otherwise, if you moved a foot one way or the other, you couldn't hear anything at all except for the band.
Oh yeah, there were no monitors in that. See that party you're talking about. It was the end of a holler by Lock 7 down by the Kentucky River. There was only one road in, and after about 1,500 cars got in there, right? Because we had kegs $5 a head, and we had 50 kegs, right? And there was something, and there was
drinking right there.
1,500 cars. Yeah, there was 1,500 cars. This thing lasted from Thursday night on into Monday before it finally you could get out of this holler. There was 1,500 cars parked in the middle of the road, sides of the road. Even emergency vehicles couldn't get down in there. It was a huge fucking thing, man. I was stuck here. My old lady knew the guy who was sponsored the party's house and called there for me. And they were sending people messages to me on stage and shit, right? You know what I'm saying?
And so he ain't making this up, man. They do shit like this in Okeechobee from time to time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was in Nicholasville, Kentucky. But in Okeechobee, I was a couple of them. One free fall summer jam thing.
Well, I mean, I knew you knew what you were talking about because you did live in Okeechobee.
Oh,
because
yeah.
Okeechobee had shit like that back, out at the lake in Lock 17. And they...
Oh, yeah. When I was in Chaos with Paul Clay, we definitely had shit like that going on, dude. Fucking crazy shit. What was that one neighborhood as you're headed out towards Okeechobee? There's a neighborhood now, but in them days it was just circles in the middle of nowhere and lots for sale. That's where one of them fucking massive parties took place at. And right off of not 441, I guess it's 98. And right off of 98, and motherfuckers just rolling in from everywhere. One car after another. It's Party Down Productions. And
that's all there is to do there, man. There's not anything else to do.
So it gets wilder than it would. I mean, like here in town, you want to have a rave or something like that. People are they're jaded by it. They don't want to really do it. But if they hear that fucking, that Chaos is having a field party and there's kegs and so forth, right? They're like, oh man, Bobby and fucking Paul and Ed is all having a fucking field party. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? And then it blows up into massive insanity.
Yeah, right? You got to watch that because you get out drinking and then next thing you know, emotions start flying and then somebody gets angry and then, people start screaming at one another. And then these days, somebody pulls a gun. Y'all want to talk about some Alabama basketball real quick?
Oh, hi. I'm Clemson Dane. And this is Smacking Off, the podcast.
It's like cocaine or something. I don't know. These motherfuckers just talk about college sports, specifically college football. And man, let me tell you, it's a hoot.
You can now tag team our affiliate retail deals with Overstock, Walmart, and Best Buy.
Find our affiliate links at smackology.42web.io and click affiliates at the top of the page.
Well, yeah. Well, see, that's the thing about it, though, Shannon. That's become a rap culture thing. If you're not in a rap culture, you run around sitting here thinking.
Whoa! Now I'm gonna tell you one thing right now. I live in a out here, kind of a little further from Birmingham now than I used to live when we first started the show. And these white boys out here do the same damn thing. They get out there and they get in the field and they get to hollering at one another. Next thing you know, someone gets mad at another one and somebody shoots one another. And I know this because I'm having a family member going through court with it right now, and another young man's dead.
Well, what about by ass whipping, though? As you know, to me, it's a punk move coming out of the gun. Now, you don't want to fight me? You got to shoot me? Right? What kind of
But see, that's the thing. It's not really a rap culture thing. It's so much really just kind of where we're at these days.
Well, no,
why go through all the trouble to whip somebody's ass and maybe possibly lose when you're guaranteed to win? The quick way out is pull your piece out. To hell with everybody. Fire a few rounds off in the air. Pray to God it don't hit anybody, and then dive in your car and get out of there and be a big
domination. Man. There's no domination in that, though, man.
I mean, that's pussy shit.
It's it's weak, so weak to me, right? And yes, I mean, there's people that has to be strapped because people act like that. You know what I'm saying? I have a buddy I was in the Army with, right?
We were just talking about this before you brought that up. Right before you came on, Doug and myself were talking about that. Is this now, because Doug and myself both don't carry guns when we go out, and it's kind of getting to the point that maybe it might be a good idea.
So this guy, he stops at the rest area at Death Valley, and this was in the news and shit. It was about 5 years ago, and he stops in there with his grandkids, and somebody accosts him in the parking lot, and they draw down on him, and he goes to disarm old dude, and the dude had friends with him, start shooting him, and they shoot their own buddy. My buddy gets behind the dude. They shoot their own buddy. He takes that dude's gun and shoots the other 3 guys, and then they charge him, right? But he did get out of it because, thankfully for him, that they had cameras there, right? But anyway, in the parking lot of one of the attractions at Death Valley, 4 people try to kill my buddy. He kills all 4 of them. One of them, well, actually, he kills 3 of them. They shoot their own buddy while he's got a hold of him, right? And and he uses that dude's gun to shoot the other 3 dudes, and they try to put him in prison. And he wasn't even armed. He had to disarm the one guy to shoot the other 3. So,
and I hope he escaped charges from that, because that's kind of a.
They gave him charges at the wazoo, but he beat all of them, right?
So that's what I was going to say. They at least because look, the case that I just referenced a moment ago, the family member is claiming self-defense in it, and there are a lot of things on scene that look to be a self-defense situation. But and this was when they first initially picked him up, but because somebody's life was taken, they wanted to go ahead and go through the whole entire process and let the court decide.
No,
so we're not going to err on the side of caution. Somebody's passed away, so we're going to let the court deal with it. And then, so now they're tangled in court, and we'll see how that works out. I have a dear friend of mine who also had a self-defense charge, came up on a family member that had attacked his sister. Well, actually, wasn't a family member. It was a guy that his mom was dating, and apparently came on to the sister. The sister wasn't having no part of that, and wound up cutting the sister's face. So he showed up over there to get his sister away from the situation. The guy left and apparently came back when he appeared there and pulled the knife on him, which was a very unwise move because he was strapped. And I mean, had a gun on his side. He wasn't concealed anything.
Yep. So as this relates to college basketball in Alabama, so the people that do hate Alabama would love to see the prosecutor decide to drag Brandon Miller into the case. Now, I've read in the Alabama newspaper, The Guardian, that they should pull Brandon Miller. So even in his own state, there's some people saying they should do that. But the prosecutor is saying that he wasn't culpable and he didn't know anything about what was going on. So therefore, he's playing. And since he's playing, Alabama is 14-1 in the league, 24-4 overall, 13-0 at home, and number 2 in the country to a team they beat, right? Houston.
Yeah,
right?
but they got 4. But Bama's got 4 losses. So.
They got 4 losses, but in my opinion, Alabama's schedule's been much tougher than Houston's. Though you got to give Houston credit for playing an early season schedule that included Alabama. And then the surprise is Texas A&M, but I don't believe they're going to beat Alabama. So, and then the other surprise is Kentucky's 10-5 in the conference now and 3rd overall. They've beat Tennessee twice, which I don't believe Kentucky's played well or consistently, but they've got a double bye going into the SEC tournament. So it's a hell of a league this year, guys. But if Alabama,
I think this year probably more so than we can remember in years. Kentucky definitely needs to make an appearance in the big dance. Otherwise, Coach Cal has got a lot of answers.
Yes,
a lot of answers he's got to come up with.
But something that has happened is the injuries to Severe Wheeler and C.J. Fredericks has forced Cal to play Chris Livingston, who has come around and looks like a blue chip. So he's been forced to play a guy he didn't want to, and now that guy is rocking, and Kentucky's been on a roll for a little while over it. So I'm excited about that. And so the SEC's looking tough. Now, I'm also a big fan of, we love the top 25 in general. I don't love them because if they, like Kansas, I want Kentucky to beat them every time they play. UCLA, Purdue, Virginia, Arizona, Texas, Baylor, Marquette. Out of all those teams, I just don't I see Kansas is really, out of all of them, I'm not really impressed by them. I don't think Texas is that great. I think Marquette and Kansas will go the furthest in the dance outside of Alabama.
Elevator?
No, I got this we got the air conditioner on. Believe it or not, here in the mountains in the winter, it's 82 degrees right now.
I actually cut the AC on driving around in the truck today, man. It was hot.
Yeah, it was.
Hot for the beginning of February.
For fucking February. Yeah,
February, whatever day it is.
Me too. I was in my truck. I throw the AC on. I can't deny it happened. Right. I was looking for shade.
But man, these Alabama haters are really, really, really wishing, hoping, and praying that Miller knew what that gun was for, so he can his friends in prison and get off the basketball court. It is amazing how many legal experts we continue to have on the internet on a daily basis that know absolutely zero about the law. And we're not just talking about Alabama law; we're just talking about just common law in general. You cannot. It's the same thing as if I leave, my cell phone in your car, Doug. And really everybody wants to put emotions into the fact that this was a gun. But here in Alabama, we're an open carry state. Everybody, including their babies and the mama, got a gun on them these days. And, it's a very common utensil that people carry with them, just like their cell phone or their wallet or keys.
I don't think there's that many people carrying. There's more than there used to be.
Oh no, there's way more people than.
Let me tell you one of the biggest misconceptions.
Which is fine. Again, if everybody's a responsible gun owner and they're not trying to shoot at people and getting emotional and like what happened in this situation here.
Let me tell you one of the biggest misconceptions from the left, though. This does not mean that more criminals are carrying guns. They were carrying anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. A criminal is always going to carry a gun regardless of legality because that's what criminals do.
They're not worried about gun laws.
Oh, yeah.
So
they don't care about gun laws.
There is that. I've had people tell me that this sends us back to the Wild West and that more criminals are carrying guns because of this. No, they're not. It's the same amount. There's just more people that are carrying that are actually trying to follow the law.
Yeah. So look, that we can debate that back and forth or talk about that back and forth. We'll save that for another episode because it would be a very long and extrapolated episode with a lot of ins and outs by people of all sorts of different political ideologies and how they feel about states' rights and yada yada this, that, and the other. At this point, I just want to see justice done. I don't care about fandom. Everybody knows I'm kind of a casual basketball fan anyways. I'm always going to root for Bama no matter what we do. But at the same time, you stand back and if you look at this emotionless, you'll see clearly that, look, and I'm not going to, there's a lot of supposition that has gone on with a lot of these arguments. And that part really, really needs to change. You can't just, wish a young man's life because you think this could have happened, or if you were in this situation, you would have done this,
Well, think about this, though. So a guy calls me late at night and he needs his gun and he's got to have it right now. I'm not concerned about why he wants it or whatever. I'm going to make a special trip to pack it to him.
I'm not going to ask any questions about it. I don't want to know. As soon as he starts talking, I'm going to tell him straight up, hey, man, no. It's your business. It's your gun. I'm going to bring it back to you. You do is whatever you do. Just, Jesus be with you.
Hi, this is Kyle Golick, and I'm standing in the middle of SEC country. We're over here. Big Ten country here. Where do I stand? SEC, Big Ten. SEC, Big Ten. You're listening to the Smacking Off the podcast.
Listen to Smacking Off the podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Also check us out on the Podbean app, Player FM and Podchaser. Go to the Smacking Off the podcast channel at smackingoff.podbean.com.
Dr. Balls is a presentation of Smacking Off the podcast.
Dr. Balls, the state of college hoops.
Let's talk about this top 10 shit. Let's break these. Are we in the final stretch yet, Dr. Balls?
I think we're in the final stretch. there's only a couple more conference games left, no matter what conference you're in, and then you're looking at the SEC tournament, you're looking at the Big East tournament, and so on and so forth. And so when you go to the top 10 and you look at that, you see Houston's number one. They're pretty well deserving. Even though
I was going to say that. I really don't. I mean, Bama don't deserve to be number one at this point.
But there's really not nobody on Houston's schedule until the end of the conference tournament that'll challenge them, in my opinion. And then Alabama's playing Arkansas, who we thought was going to be good, but ain't really turned out all that great. So Alabama looks pretty secure at number 2, number 1 seed. And the Jayhawks are tough. They've won some big games. And I said early in the season, I thought that them and UConn were the best teams. The UConn's fell off quite a bit, even though they're still like number 18. But early in the season, Kansas looked like the best team in the country. But I think a few teams has figured them out. But they're still great. They're a great team. They could win it all. UCLA is pretty good. I don't think that they've really been well challenged. And then Purdue is consistent. I don't think they're good enough to beat Alabama. Virginia, on the other hand, intrigues me, guys, because for people that love high-paced basketball and a lot of scoring and shit like that, Virginia games are maddening, right? And they just slow the tempo down so much. And it all about execution. And there's so few possessions that every possession matters. Well, why does that matter in our conversation? Well, that's what tournament basketball is, right? And that's what when Alabama's been tested, that's what they had to do. Well, that's Virginia's game in and game out. A lot of teams crack under the pressure of it, right? And so I'm really impressed by Virginia this year. I've been watching them. I didn't really want to talk about them a whole lot because I wanted to be sure, but even though their conference is down a little bit, Virginia is one of the best teams in the country. So if I had to pick 4 right now, Final 4, I would probably pick Alabama, Kansas, Virginia, and Marquette. That's my Final 4. That's Bob's Final 4. I think Marquette is the best team of the second 5, and probably if they was in a lesser conference, probably would be top 5. But those are my top 4 for the Final 4. I don't believe Baylor is in a tough conference, and they've played well, but I don't believe they're that great. Texas beats everybody but the best teams. Alabama had their way with them. Arizona's pretty good, but I don't believe that they're well tested outside of playing UCLA. Right?
How about Sean Devine's Creighton?
Creighton's a good team, and I think they'll do pretty well in the tournament. But they just
don't quite get there.
I don't think they're going to make it to the Final 4. I think this is a slightly down year for them. And there's other teams in the conference like Xavier and Marquette and UConn. But Creighton, that's a tough conference. Creighton, UConn, and Providence are all right there. And Creighton's ranked higher than a lot of teams with as many losses as they got because the way they've played in tough games and the big wins they've had. So Creighton is a pretty tough team. I think they're better than Tennessee. Now, guys, if you're Tennessee, you got a team like Kentucky that's been on the ropes, hasn't been well coached this year. It's obvious Kentucky hasn't been well coached this year, right? And they've got superior talent to most everybody in the conference other than Alabama. So to lose the way they did to Kentucky is just, it's just ugly, and it just makes me think that that team isn't hard. They're not made for the tournament, So I just don't got any hope for Tennessee. I think they're going to lose. There's no Sweet 16 for Tennessee is what I'm thinking.
They look good. They looked good against Alabama last week.
Well, they looked pretty good against Alabama, but Alabama did lose that game. But I think there's a lot of pressure going on right now with all these charges and shit like that. And then Alabama, they played South Carolina last night, 1-1.
Yeah, I seen that. Or no, 2, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a tough game right there. I was flipping back and forth between it and Kentucky, and I think the Alabama's the reason I'm so high on them is every time they go through a tough stretch of adversity, somehow they keep on winning. It makes me think about like the 1990 Giants, right? You never really believe that they had enough offense to beat anybody, but they was able to hang on through all those games because they had defense and they was able to deal with adversity, and somehow they win in the end. And So teams that can win them kinds of games are going to be tough in the tournament. So I'm still on Alabama. I'd like to see them hang the natty at Alabama. That would put so much pressure on Calipari and Kentucky. It's got to happen.
Well, I'm with you. I'd like to see it. I don't believe I'll see it, but if I do,
I think you can't see it because nobody's clearly better than them, in my opinion. Who's clearly better than Alabama?
And not only that, but I mean, Alabama, if they didn't have all of the distraction that they've had and also losses on their side, they would have probably. It would have been out of the realm of possibility to say they could have possibly brushed against the idea of a perfect season.
Yeah, they could have had an undefeated conference schedule at the very least, which would have been historic, right? And they, I was looking forward to that, but like you said, with all the controversy and things swirling around, the way they've done, even on top of that, means they're pretty strong. I mean, they're well coached. He's able to hold that stuff together. So last night's game, you may think, damn, that's a bad game for Alabama, but they won that ugly game. Right.
Well, and to be fair, there has been even more distraction, particularly over the past week, because of Oates, quote unquote, as I believe USA Today called it, tone deaf response to he mentioned NBA Miller not being charged, and I'm sorry, it is what it is, but everybody wants to make more about it, but they discussed it as a team. They discussed it with law enforcement. He is working and cooperating 1,000% with law enforcement. And well, what else do you want for the guy? Do you want him to go ahead and have some charges that he didn't earn? I mean, what the hell's that about? Everybody can be mad at him all they want to, but they're not mad at the people that actually pulled the trigger. Not for real.
I read in the sporting news that the president of the university said there's information that we don't know that further exonerates him.
So, I mean, look, it is what it is at this point. I wish everybody the very best going into the tournament, but, Brandon Miller's going to be there, like it or not.
Yep.
It's best to go ahead and embrace the reality now instead of trying to bend the reality to what you want it to be.
And he's going to stand on the podium on draft day, too, I think. He's getting ready to get paid. So, I mean, it's a crazy time. It's Ray Lewis-like moment. Does anybody, it's almost like Ray Lewis in the Super Bowl, So what would that be for Brandon Miller? Will he evolve and grow from all this like Ray Lewis did, who later on became a role model for a lot of people?
Or Kobe Bryant. I mean, will he learn from his mistake as a younger person that was in the wrong place at the wrong time, depending on how you look at the case? I happen that Kobe got away with,
Yeah, I think he did too. I never loved Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant made his career by kicking people in the face, right? That basketball was one of my favorite things in my whole life, right? My idea that the refs would let me get away with kicking people in the face to make my career, right? And somehow call me great. I couldn't even accept that, right? And this is a guy that lived off the fadeaway for 10 years. He's one of the most overrated players that I ever saw. But I will give him credit for having a winning mentality and a hard edge, and he was one of the greatest when it came to that.
Yeah, now he was able, once all of the money was paid out to all of the various different entities, he went in and earned that money back for his handlers, which is pretty much about what it was. He played like the devil was chasing him, which he kind of was.
See, in the NBA, when a player's career is over, when the things that the refs let them get away that made their career is over. When Shaq could no longer just push people down and run over them and get away with it, right, then his career was over. He became a second-rate player. But the same thing with Kobe Bryant. When the refs cut him off of being able to kick you in the face when he made it, and then get a foul for it. So Kobe Bryant would go up into his jumper, kick his foot out, kick you in the face, right, and you would get a foul for that. And he made his career on that, right? And they, to me, is one of the weakest moves I ever saw. And he never really I can't name one player Kobe Bryant ever beat off the dribble, right? I can't name one situation where he dominated and soared over a guy that was playing on his defense, right? So to me, he made his career off of getting calls, right? I mean, it's just that simple. And just like Shaq, when they quit giving him them calls, he was over. He was to the fadeaway. That's another thing. When you see these great guards like Clyde Drexler, Michael Jordan, and Kobe Bryant doing fadeaway shots, is because they can't do nothing else. because fadeaway is the last shot that you attempt, because that means you could have gave the ball to somebody else that had a better shot. So then it becomes about whether or not you score, and the crowd gets happy because you scored, right? So, in my opinion, that's not a great basketball player, right? Now, I'm just paid to sit there and watch you make the worst play of basketball fadeaway instead of dealing it to somebody else who had an open shot. So that's how I feel about Kobe Bryant. I mean, that's how I feel about the Michael Jordan's days with the Wizards. That's how I feel about Clyde Drexler's last days with.
Hey, wait a minute. Michael Jordan played for the Wizards. When did that happen? Yeah, I mean, seriously, when you go back and you talk about the legacy of Michael Jordan, you'll even bring up his 220 batting average of the Birmingham Barons before you talk about his days at the Wizards. I mean, for real.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because he was reduced to the fadeaway, right? So there weren't any great moments for him with the Wizards, right? Now, Michael Jordan is the greatest, right? I'm not saying Michael Jordan is the greatest. Oh,
absolutely. No question. I don't want anybody to think I'm suggesting that, even especially in this discussion that kind of ended with, began with us, pulling the old, Kobe case out.
But you knew that Jordan was over with when he was reduced to the fadeaway. Didn't you know that? You know what I'm saying? Because that's what he did. He could beat you and take his man off the dribble. He could have you so froze up, because it was not. See, people think it was Michael Jordan's physical gifts that made him great, and they were great gifts, but that wasn't what made him great. What made him great was decision making, right, and the mental aspect of his game. Now I've done showed you that I can dunk on you whenever you want, so now you've got to come up on me and stop me from getting to the rim, right? But you can't do that, but you're going to give that a shot, right? So what if I come towards you, right? You're going to get wide, you're going to get low. I can just stop and pop over you because you're falling over. You're worried about the next thing I'm going to do, right? So now I've treated you however I want all game long, right? And now I'm going to go in here when it matters and do what I have to do. And you can't stop it, and you know it. So what do? They put two guys on you. Somebody's open, he dunks at game. We just won. Scottie Pippen looks like he belongs in the top 50. All because I'm on the court, right? That's mental basketball. So when you combine mental basketball with physical gifts, that's the kind of players you get, man. Mental players can go a long way. Look at Larry Bird. Look at Robert Horry. Guys that had a smart game, right? If they had the physical gifts of Michael Jordan with the mentality they had for playing basketball, then we'd be talking about them guys.
All right, Bob, what are we looking for in the next few days in basketball?
Roll Tide.
I'm just looking here, and there's good end of season conference matchups. They're pretty much middling games that really don't turn me on a whole lot. I mean, it won't be till this weekend, I believe, anybody's challenged. But the SEC seeding is pretty much set. The way I'm looking at it, the first four teams with buys are pretty much in there, and it's Kentucky and Alabama and Texas A&M and Tennessee. So let's see what we're looking at for schedule here. I'm just making sure, because there's this week's schedule we're looking at great. And that's it. It's the end of the conference season for tonight, and tomorrow night's the end of the conference season for everybody, and the conference tournament starts on the 25th. So that would be like what? Sunday or Monday?
Yeah.
So
coming up.
Alabama has a bye. They will probably play to Thursday. So that's what we're looking at. Took a start at $75. No, it says they can play Arkansas, Auburn, and Texas A&M. So
guys, we may have to start doing this more often, but I made this one not private when we went live tonight, but public. And a few people hopped in when it was talking while we were talking. So.
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, we like that.
Maybe it would grow if I did it every time we did it.
Cool.
I love the days of the podcast when it was live and people would chime in. I did enjoy that.
Well, we can start doing it.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm gonna bounce. Y'all have a wonderful evening.
You too, Bob.